Today, we're going to be taking a look at the new Avatar HD Mini 1S Lite kit VTX and camera. This is an upgraded, improved version of their original 1S Whoop VTX, and in this video, I'm going to give you an overview of what's changed, walk you through the board, take a look at the camera, and then at the end, share with you my thoughts. Now, just to be clear, this has been sent to me for free. However, Cadex or Walksnail have not seen this video before it's been published, and as always, my thoughts are entirely my own. Anyway, let's get on with it and let's take a closer look at what's actually changed with this new version of their smaller VTX. Okay, so what we have here is a new upgraded Mini 1S Lite kit from Walksnail. It consists of the mini camera, the new smaller and lighter VTX, and it also includes a new smaller antenna as well. Now when you open the box, which I've already done, I'll slide it over here, you will find the VTX, the camera, and everything you need here on the side to get yourself up and running. And they also include these little instructions in the box giving you all of the information you need to get yourself set up. Something I will say is Walksnail are doing a fantastic job of providing the info you need to get yourself up and running, and they even show you on this little leaflet all of the settings you need in Betaflight to get this up and running with that MSP DisplayPort OSD. Now, this is a new version of that 1S VTX. It supports a voltage input range of 3.1 to 5 volts. It has that full MSP DisplayPort capability. It supports that 1080p, 60 and 100 frames a second modes. It offers that usual down to 22 milliseconds latency, and it has all of the same general functionality as the other VTXs. The only real difference is on this smaller one is that it is limited to 350 milliwatts of output, and it has a maximum voltage input range of 5 volt. You'll also notice on this one is that it has a single antenna output, and we'll take a closer look at the PCB in a minute. So rather than it being a dual antenna like we saw on the previous models, it's a single antenna now, helping them reduce the size of the overall footprint on the board. You'll also note there are some changes on the top of the VTX as well. The heatsink or the CPU cover is gone, and now we have the direct chip visible there. We have our MIPI connection over here, and then our camera here. But again, we'll look at that a little bit closer in a second. Then also in the box, we have our new little antenna, which is designed to work with the system. And then we have our firmware update cable, and it is worth noting that this firmware update cable is different to the one on the normal VTX. It has a much smaller connector on it now, and you'll see that when we take a closer look at the unit itself in a minute. Jumping in closer, you can now see the changes in a bit more detail. We have our main chipset. Now, this is the same chipset they've always used. It's just that they've removed the heat spreader off the top just to aid with cooling. We then have our bind button over here. We have our main power IC for the power regulation on the board, and then our MIPI input from our camera that is pre-glued just to ensure that it stays on. If we then flip the board over the other side, we can see our firmware update port. That is that smaller port, as I mentioned earlier. We then have that flash chipset like we had on the other boards. And if I then just move this up, you can see the wiring at the top here for our power and our UART interface. And this now is hardwired to the PCB rather than it be an additional connector. And then it comes pre-wired with a 4-pin header on there too. Now, size-wise, this new board is 30 by 30, and it has a mounting pattern of 25.5 by 25.5. The camera cable length on this, I haven't actually checked yet. If we just do that whilst on here now. From the board to the back of the camera, we're looking at about 55 mil. So obviously that gives you an idea of the kind of length you've got. And then if we talk about weight of the whole kit, if I pop the VTX setup on, and I'm going to pop the antenna on as well, we're coming in at about 8 grams in total, and that's for everything you can see here, and that's going to give you an idea of what sort of weight penalty you're going to be putting onto your whoops. Another one of the big changes on this VTX compared to the others is that it is officially a single antenna model. The last Whoop VTX actually had one antenna, but it had the placement for 2, showing you that the board had sort of been designed around 2 antennas originally. This one, though, is completely different. It's been optimized. We now have just our single antenna UFL, and that means that they've been able to save a bit of space, save a bit of weight, and get everything on this much smaller package overall. Now, really, what Walksnail have been able to do here is just continue to optimize their board layout. We have that second UFL placement location gone, and that's allowed them to move everything around and get the board down to that 30 by 30 form factor. Overall, it's been really impressive to see how Walksnail have actually continued to do the development on their VTXs, and this new generation of the 1S VTX really does show just how much optimization they've been able to do, and it's really good to see them continue to bring products into the market that users have been asking for. Now, just taking a look at the actual HD Lite camera itself, it weighs 1.8 grams, has a 2.1mm lens and 170-degree field of view, and that then offers all of the same functionality that we've seen on the other cameras from the Walksnail system in the past. The only real difference on this one is that it is completely stripped back, giving you the lightest possible setup. Just to give you a quick overview of the cameras and how they look on the bench, this one here is the Nano camera from Avatar, and this is one of the original two at release. We then have the new HD Lite 1S camera. You'll see that the field of view is slightly different. Whilst it's a little bit wider, it's also a little bit more punched in as well. And then we have a comparison with the only other 1S system on the market, which is the HD0 Whoop Lite. Just to compare the two Avatar cameras side by side, here you can see the differences in the field of view as well as the overall image quality. I have to say it is extremely close between these cameras and it does look very good overall. Now, as I have already mentioned, this VTX has a maximum input voltage of 5 volts, and you do need to take great care to ensure that you do not go over that. If you do, it will get damaged and you will burn out that main regulator. If you're using it off a 1S battery, it should be fine. However, if you're running it off a BEC on your flight controller, make sure that you have a capacitor on it as well. That should help absorb any spikes on power up. Now, at this point, I would usually have put the Avatar kit in a frame and taken it for a spin. Unfortunately, though, this VTX is actually damaged. I was testing it on the bench with a 4-volt fixed power supply, and whilst it worked a couple of times, it then died. I believe what actually happened was on power up of a test, the power supply spiked the voltage regulator on the VTX. As I said earlier, you're going to need to take great care in ensuring that you do not provide this with any more than 5 volts. I don't know for sure what the actual cause was. I have done some testing on that bench supply and I can't really see anything particularly unusual, but what I can say is it was working and now it isn't, and my belief is it is a transient voltage spike that actually took it out. And if you're going to be bench testing this, you do need to take great care and make sure that you are doing it on a 1S battery, and make sure if it is going on a BEC that there is plenty of capacitance. Now, overall, I do like what Walksnail have done here. I think they've done a great job of getting the size down on this VTX and getting the weight down, and it's really good to see what is possible on a system like the DJI style system, and it really would be great to see other manufacturers do the same. I'm not talking about HD0, I'm talking about the other one, and Avatar really are pushing the boundaries on what they can deliver. They're delivering the products that people are asking for as well, and you really can't complain about that at all. The Avatar system has developed massively and they really have continued to push the system forward, and this really is proof of that. Now, if you're interested in getting one, it is available to order. As I've said, it's the smaller and lighter version, but again, just make sure you watch those voltages. If you found this video interesting, please do make sure you are a subscriber of the channel. If you'd like to support us, there are links to my Patreon in the description. There's a link to Patreon and Buy Me a Coffee, and if you would like to support us in the work we do on this channel, please do consider checking them out. Anyway, that's it from me. Stay safe. I will speak to you soon.